Hi, this is John Tisafari from the Post Collective, and congratulations for downloading and trying out Scratch. So what I'm going to do is walk you through installation, starting the program, creating a new project, and loading media so that you can conform, color correct, and render footage. So by the end of this video, you should be able to walk through all of these things yourself. Feel free to follow along. Scratch is an incredibly powerful finishing system. Its feature set includes media database, audio sync, conforming from Avid and Final Cut projects, as well as EDLs. You've got a really full-featured color corrector and quite a staggering number of input and output formats. That includes going out to tape or out to digital media. So let's get started with an installation. It's as simple as double-clicking the install package and stepping through the dialogues. And in just several seconds, Scratch installs. It's a very powerful program, but also has a very small footprint on the computer. All right, and we are ready to get started. First thing we'll need to do is license the software. Browse to the license file, which you'll have downloaded as part of your demo. And once you've loaded it up, click Activate and agree to restart Scratch. Now we're licensed, and here we are in the home screen. Click here to create a project. Type in the project name. And select format. That would be resolution and frame rate, or do a custom, as we will here. And click on Project to set the media directory. The default media directory is something that's required by every Scratch project. I just agree to select, and you can see here it's been entered to the database, and I can enter my project and get started. And here we are in Scratch's construct. This is the first screen you'll see in the project that you've entered. It's really the core of Scratch. The construct is, think of it as a multi-dimensional area where you can arrange in time. You can create non-destructive versions. Now, the first thing we'll do is load some media. So let me load a single clip. I'll just browse to a location. Choose to open this particular piece of media. It's stuck on my cursor. I can drop it in any slot. I can preview the contents by scrolling along the top. And I can preview some of the clip properties by clicking in the bottom here. If you want to move a clip around, you just click and drag and then drop it into another slot. If you want to copy, there's a couple ways to do that. First, you can first select the clip, then copy selected, and wherever this blue bar is located, you could paste the shot. You can even paste multiple versions. It's going to be handy for stacking various color grades, and you can that way refer to before and after, or show multiple looks. Scratch will always consider the bottom clip as the active clip, and anything above will be a version. And it's easy to change orders. Just click and drop. You can also do a multiple selection set by pressing Control and click dragging to select all the clips you wish to attach to the cursor, and in this case I'm going to bin these. And I can also hit Control A on my keyboard and select everything in the construct and bin that as well. Now you saw the single clip selection. For more fully featured recursive selection, click Load Layers and browse to the root directory from which you wish to pull the media files. In this case, I'm going to select this Margarita H.264 folder, Underneath that you can see subdirectories, and these do contain the media, but I'm going to stay here and I'm going to choose a file mask just for QuickTime. So I am constraining my selection set to only QuickTime files. And you can see it'll quickly load all of the files that I've found in that directory. A quick note on versioning: if you want to create a version very quickly, you can select everything. Again, Control A on the keyboard, copy that selection and paste. And here you can see now I've got two versions. If I make changes here and don't make changes on the second row, then I will have a before and after. Or conversely, I could have two separate grades, two different looks. In any case, I'm going to undo this. You can undo in most areas of Scratch, including the construct. And I'm going to now conform my footage. Now, what we have here is a horizontal and a vertical arrangement in the slots in the construct. And as mentioned, the vertical slot arrangement is versions and horizontal is time. But right now there is no edit. It's just one clip lined up after another. If I want to conform using an EDL or Final Cut XML or ALE, just click this button here, Load Conform. I'm going to set my file mask to Final Cut XML because that's what I've been provided with by the editor. And load that XML project file. And you can see here the assembly window, which has most of the events, which has all the events of the XML project. I'm going to match timecode and name. And you can see here it found a match for every entry. I'm going to assemble these to a new construct. Click Assemble, and here we are. Now in this particular construct, which is called Festival Invitation, you can see a subconstruct, and that is a really powerful feature of Scratch Lab version 6, of Scratch version 6, multiple video tracks. We can conform any number of video tracks simultaneously, and you can see here there's one piece of footage on track 2, and our main track, Festival Invitation, has all the rest of our clips on it. And to go into the editor, we can right click and click on Editor, or we can press play and move to the Edit module. Now the editor is one of the very, very powerful modules in Scratch. You can see here it's divided into video, audio, and tracks. Video, we can adjust slip in and out points of our source footage, the speed of our source footage. For instance, in this case we would be running at half speed. We can also set offsets. We can flop, flip, and here are some timeline settings. We can add transitions. We can change our start point of a clip, the duration of a clip, how it's played, and whether or not it's a ripple. And there's a powerful tool in Scratch called the Shot Analyzer. Shot Analyzer will look at the footage on the timeline and analyze pixels from one frame to the next, and if there are enough changes past a certain threshold, it will suggest cut points, thereby detecting. And another tab here would be audio, and in this case we don't have any audio, but this is an area for audio waveforms. For instance, if I were to load a piece of audio, you would see it represented here, and it can be adjusted through slip. It can be loaded on a clip basis or for the entire timeline. And here are our video tracks. In this case, we have 2 tracks, a main track and a track 1. Now you'll notice that currently the image is larger than my actual project. The original files were in 1080p, but we're currently working in 720p. So I'm going to go over to the process module. By right-clicking anywhere in the interface, I can bring up this menu that allows me to navigate from one module to the next. Currently we're in Edit. By clicking on Process, the Process module is a place where we can insert plugins for Scratch. Scratch reads OFX standard plugins, and that would include the ones that come with Scratch, which you see here, as well as plugins that you can purchase separately. You can also make adjustments. In this case, my source footage is QuickTime. I could make adjustments to how the QuickTime is read. But what we're going to do is take a look at the Shot Config tab, and here we can see what our scaling is and how to make changes to it. I'm going to click the All button, which will allow me to resize all the files simultaneously. And you can see here they all fit into the correct scaling now. And let's go back to the construct. No change has been made here. The original source footage is 1280 by 720. I can access this little information window by clicking near the bottom of one of these clips. I can also scrub through the footage by clicking and scrubbing the top. And you can see here these little notes. These come from the Final Cut Conform, but I can also get rid of the notes. What I'm going to do is click Notes Hide. Now I can see all of the contents and easily review the clips that are in the construct. Now let's go back to the editor and take a look at the interface here. Now, new in version 6 is multiple tracks of video. In this case, I've got 2 tracks, and you can see that here. What I'm going to do is select all tracks so I can see them all. And what you can see here is that on track 1, this track here, is this clip with a fade, and the subsequent clips are all on the main track. Now let's do some color correction. Now right click, move to the matrix. The matrix is our color correction module. I can resize the Scratch viewer by holding down the Alt key on the keyboard and scrolling the mouse wheel, or click and dragging. Or I can press the plus and minus keys on the keyboard. If I want to pan the image around, not the source footage, just the viewer, I can hold down the space bar. And if I want to play back, I press the Enter key, and my footage will play back. Now I want to introduce swipe gestures in Scratch. We've got swipes to the side. In this case, we're going to bring up scopes. Very, very useful for the color correction. We've got a waveform here, a vector scope here, and a histogram here. And we can modify which tools, which scopes are displayed, and how they're displayed. I like this layout myself. And we can also swipe up to bring up a toolbar along the top. We can show a pipeline view. This gives us an overview of the data flow. And the audio mixer. Scratch has a very, very powerful set of audio synchronizing and mixing tools. Let's achieve through this mixing channel, through this mixing interface. We can also look at individual red, green, blue, or any combination thereof. Luminance and alpha, which in this case we don't have. Another great thing is the magnifying glass, and the magnifier lets us not only look at zoomed in areas of the image, it also analyzes the pixels in the crosshairs, and you can zoom out or zoom in. And a swipe up will open and close this toolbar. And a swipe to the side will open and close the scopes. Here are my scaffolds. These are layers, and you'll see me using them shortly. But first thing I'll do is a simple base grade. I'm just going to resize so I can work my base grade here. Go back to my color. This is a virtual trackball interface, and we can see rings to operate master lift. I can also adjust the color in the balls themselves. And the first thing I'd like to do is just get a little more blacks and maybe pull my highlights down ever so slightly. Raise my gamma just a little bit. And I'm fairly comfortable with that. Now I'm going to go to my numeric layout of the tools here, and I'm going to increase the saturation very slightly. I can go overboard, but that's going to look a little bit funny. So let's go down to around 115%. I can click on this and it'll open this little calculator. Type in 115, press the enter key, and I've now got the saturation increased the way I like it. Let's just pull our master down ever so slightly. And I have another tool in Scratch that's very powerful, and that's curves. A way for me to create a somewhat more customized luminance profile. And it's looking pretty good. So that's before the grade, and this is after the grade. Now I would like to raise, kind of make her face pop a little bit more. In order for me to do that, I'm going to have to work with a secondary color correction. In this case, a canvas. A canvas, click New, and I'm going to go with a freeform shape and just draw something very simple here. Add some softness. Now I'm going to want to track this to her face. And click on the tracker. Move my track point to her nose. I think that's a good feature for me to work with. I'm going to increase the outside window because the camera moves a little bit quickly. I don't want to lose the track. And I'm pretty satisfied with that. That seems to be a good track for our purposes. And you can see the shape is tracking quite well to her face. Now, any color corrections that I add from this point on will be limited to inside this shape. So I'll increase the gamma just ever so slightly. And I'm going to increase the contrast as well, but just a very little bit. Just enough to make it feel natural. Now, if I want to check this without the shape, I can do so. I'm going to close the scopes. And now I can click outside of the scaffold to deactivate it. And you can see her face has a nice little glow to it. This is before, and this is after my secondary correction. So you can see very quickly I was able to do a base grade, which you can see here. This is prior to the base grade. This is the base grade. Clicking the F key on your keyboard will toggle color corrections on and off. Clicking on the A button for active, I can activate my scaffold. And you can see the effect that this has on our shot. And this can all be played back in real time. I can even manipulate the color in real time. And same goes for the secondary. It can also be manipulated in real time. And when I render this out, it's going to all render down into one file. So I'm going to create a QuickTime from this. And you'll notice in the construct, timeline, and an output tab here. the output portion of the construct is where we set up renders. Now you can see here some basic controls for format, resizing filter. Obviously we've got frame rate, aspect ratio, etc. I'm going to just change this real quick. And our default node here, I personally am going to add one node here. And in order to be able to render two outputs simultaneously, we could add two separate output nodes. In this case, I've got one that's TIFF. I'm going to change this to DPX. And change this to 10-bit. And this one here I'm not going to be concerned with because I'm going to add a QuickTime plugin. In order to render QuickTimes in Scratch, we are going to use the QuickTime plugin layer. So you highlight the node, click the play button here, and make sure you're in the FX Controls tab. Click Insert to bring up the plugin browser. Select the QuickTime Export plugin. And you can see here we now have some controls for making adjustments. I'm going to set this for H.264, and I'll leave the rest of the settings as is. And you can see now a new node has been added to the output portion of the construct. And I will select this node first. I will add it to the queue, and then I will select the QuickTime output node and add that. When I show the process queue, you can see both are represented here. And I'll press Start, and the rendering starts almost immediately. And the render is completed. I'll close the queue window, and I'll add a new construct. And then we can load these rendered shots. I'm going to select the render directory so that it'll just pick up everything beneath. And here we go. I should have both. This would be the DPX sequence, and here is the QuickTime. We've installed the program, licensed it, loaded media, color corrected it, and rendered. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed your first experience with Scratch.